They call me the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor. I am the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I am the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
Greetings, humans, Daleks, Time Lords, and Time Beetles. You are listening to Exterminating Doctor Who.
This is the show that takes Doctor Who's best episodes to debate if they're really as good as their reputations.
With your hosts, Aidan Gula.
And me, George Ellis.
And in today's episode, we are talking about Turn Left. We are back for Series 2.
Series 2. No one asked for it, but we're here.
Series 2. We were debating whether we were even going to do Series 2.
Well, I wanted to. He was the one going, I don't know.
I was debating whether or not to
Yeah.
do Series 2. When I originally did this, I had no intention of doing Series 2. And then you've managed to convince me to do it after our last 5 guest specials.
Mm-hmm.
So you could, if you are listening to this thinking, why the hell does Series 2 start on episode 26? That seems really random. But it does.
Yeah.
You roll with it. This is the most schizophrenic podcast you can imagine. Sometimes we're in the radio studio, sometimes we're not. Sometimes they're filmed, sometimes they're not. You know, it doesn't really make sense.
You know what you're here for, and it's just a raffle.
You get
take
a discussion.
You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. That's where we're at.
Yeah, so you get a discussion. It just, the format changes ever so slightly every now and then. But no, we are talking about Turn Left. I think it's a really good opener for Series 2 because we are turning in a different direction.
Way.
We're going from talking about the worst episodes to finally talking about good ones. We can finally watch episodes and go, this is so good, rather than being like, end. Please just end. I don't want to see a second more of this.
And you'll see a different side to me and Aidan here,
Yeah,
because
we're
we
gonna
won't be just sad every episode.
No, the original intention was to raise positivity
Yep.
by getting episodes that are bad and being like, you know what, they're actually pretty good. But sometimes they would go, no, they're really not.
They're worse
They're
than
not.
I could. They're worse than I remember them.
Yeah.
I hate this. I never want to come back. Why are
Exactly.
you making me do this?
But this time it should be nothing but positivity, except for one episode that is seen as amazing, but I actually can't stand. So besides that one,
Stick around for that one.
Besides that one, it should be nothing but plain sailing. So before we hop into Turn Left, we are going to introduce a new section, and that new section is a news section, and it's called Who Knows? So, at time of recording, it is officially 1 week since the news was announced that Russell T Davies is returning, and we've had no new news since then.
No.
So, we will be talking right now about Russell T Davies' return.
I'm over the moon. Like me and Aidan were just talking to each other, like as Aidan told me the announcement happened, and I didn't believe him at first. I was like, "You're just lying to me.
Yeah.
This is just not true."
Mm.
But we were just rambling, sending deranged messages to each other, just saying
For
how
3 hours.
Yeah,
Straight.
of course, saying how much this is the best moment of our lives
Yeah.
so far, and probably ever.
It is the best news I can, in living memory, that I have ever thought I've ever received. I can't think of any better news. You said that's really sad, Aid. Does nothing else happen in your life besides Doctor Who? No, it doesn't.
We do
actually.
a podcast on Doctor Who. If
Yeah,
there
do you
were
really-
anything else,
Do you really think I've got friends? I'm trying to find the original message because I saved it from when I told you the news.
oh,
Yeah, here we are. Right, there will be expletives, but I do bleep them out. But so we were in the middle of talking about something else. I don't know what we were talking about.
absolute.
And then, I sent to you in all capitals, Russell T Davies is returning as showrunner. And you replied, wait, no way. I do not believe you. So then I had to send you the
Yeah.
tweet, and then we both lost our minds.
It is such incredible news because it opens so many doors for what Doctor Who can be again, you know? Because Doctor Who hadn't, it's lost its way. It really has, I think. And I feel like I don't really know anyone new who could come in and bring it back, because it's kind of that point where it's, can someone new take this thing that's kind of lost its way and bring it back to what it was? Because they don't know what it should be. they're just trying to fix this old thing. So it might come close to that, but it probably wouldn't ever be the same.
I think that's a good thing because I was thinking of all sorts of names. Because obviously nobody ever anticipated this.
Oh, no.
Anytime anybody was looking at who shall we have as showrunner, nobody was going, "Hey guys, wouldn't it be great if we could get Russell T Davies back?" It wasn't even on the
And if
cards.
they mentioned it, it was some
It'd be
sort
like-
of
it'd be like, oh.
far-fetched fantasy
Yeah,
thing.
it'd be like, wouldn't that be amazing? So there were names that I thought, this person could probably do a good job. This person could probably do a good job. We did a whole episode, or I think we might have even mentioned.
Probably, yeah, I think we
showrunners.
did, yeah.
And there are people that I do think could have made good Doctor Who,
Yes.
but are there people that could make Doctor Who
Mm.
in the sense that let's throw this back into the mainstream. Let's make this the show that most people that watch it today hopped on during the Russell T Davies era. Whether or not that is their favourite era, it tends to be always still comparing it backwards to that. And you can even see that in ways of the Chris Chibnall era through loads of ham-fisted references to it at us all the time. Because it was just been like, guys, do you remember that? But actually having the guy back, it makes it so much more comfortable, I find. I don't need to worry about Doctor Who anymore.
Instead, I'm thinking about what could happen. Because with what I was thinking about music, for example, with the new series, I was thinking, before the news, I was thinking, oh, are they going to keep the current guy on? They're going to get Murray Gold back? Because I feel like Doctor Who's seriously lacking in the music department at the moment. But now that Russell T Davies is coming back, I'm like, Murray Gold, if you don't come back, something has gone terribly wrong here. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's so many things which are kind of inherently not fixed, but I'm excited about. Like, what are the sets going to look like? Is it going to go back to grungy? What's it going to be like? How's the Doctor going to be? Are we going to be a bit more grounded again, kind of soap opera, or are we still going to kind of stay sci-fi-esque? And I think one of the main thing for me with this kind of Russell T Davies era 2, the sequel.
I'm genuinely never going to get used to
I know,
saying
it's incredible. I think the main thing is, because I said this to you before, in the street, like when we were younger, not in the street, kind of in school and stuff. Because I wasn't really in the street. Hey, do you know Doctor Who? No, when we were younger, it was always kind of like, hey, you're watching Doctor Who. What did you think? What did you think? To kind of anyone, I could talk to my folks about it, for crying out loud. But these days, if you mention Doctor Who to someone, it's either, oh, are you still watching that? Or is it good?
Or I've even had, is that still on?
That hurts my soul, actually. No, but that's what we're dealing with right now. If you're not a diehard fan,
You don't know it exists.
exactly, and if you do, you only hear bad things because it's not great. Personally, if you like it, that's fair enough.
Yes.
But what we're gonna get is we're gonna go back to those old times where it's like every family and their dog is watching Doctor Who.
But I mean, it's no guarantee that that'll happen.
I mean, it will.
But it's the fact that it's a definite potential.
Oh yeah,
That's what's exciting. It's the fact that like I said, I don't need to worry anymore. Because it's like you just said then, like, oh, Murray Gold will come back. But even if he doesn't, I'm not bothered because Russell T Davies knows what kind of music he wants. He chose Murray Gold in the first place anyway. So even if it's not Murray Gold, it'll be somebody either similar or giving that same kind of thing.
and if it is something new, it'll fit.
Exactly. It's
Perfectly.
like, it's anything when I'm going, he could do this. But even if he doesn't, I'm fine with what else. Because even outside of Doctor Who, it's great to think, oh, we'll be going, like you just said, it's great thinking, oh, we're going to go back to that soap opera. And I think that's highly unlikely because what's really exciting about Russell T Davies is that the writer he is now is not the writer he was
He's really developed.
back then. He's like, I don't know what happened to my voice there.
He's like,
He's like, I think actually, when we talk about this episode, I think Turn Left is the best example of what Russell T Davies writes like now. For his Doctor Who writing.
really depressing.
Basically, yeah. For his Doctor Who writing, I don't think there's any other episodes that are as similar to how he writes now as Turn Left. And I think if you look at something like Years and Years, where it's just depressing and made me want to just like hide away for 8 or 10 weeks, however long it was on. That's what I'm looking forward to see. That kind of, I'm going to say angry writing, where he's kind of like, I've got a message I want to say and I'm going to say it. And it's so well written and so well crafted. It's that I'm really excited to see.
You spoke to me a little while ago about how Russell T Davies's messages, they're not ham-fisted. They're woven into the story in such a way that you come to that conclusion yourself. So I am, and he's right. There are so many things in kind of the Russell T Davies 1 era that you kind of don't notice when you're younger, but they're such incredible messages and they create such a just an appreciation for the world and kind of human beings and it's just it's incredible really. And I'm very excited to see kind of what he does with that. I'm so excited to just have him write Doctor Who again and see what he does new.
It's like over that 3
incredible.
hours when we were talking, it was like at first it's going, oh my god, Russell Davies is back. What's the new episode going to be like? Who's the Doctor going to be? There all your surface level things. But you, like you said, you sit back and then we were after like we'd talked, we suddenly both were like, what's the TARDIS going to look like? What are the Daleks going to look like? And there's all these things that you think, well, these are kind of just, you could think these are just standard run of the mill showrunner, hopes and wonders. Like when Moffat took over, what's the TARDIS going to look like? When Chibnall looked like, what's the Daleks going to look like? Because it's Russell T Davies and we've seen what he can do before, it makes it so much more exciting. But it's
exactly.
I think that the negative side of the news slightly is that it's completely overshadowed Series 13.
Yes,
Like,
but I mean,
like for our news section, there was a rumor that we were going to get Series 13 news today. We haven't, so we're still having to talk about Russell T Davies. But it's kind of like I'm not interested in Series 13. Even the specials that are coming next year, I'm not interested. I'm now like
I'm actually kind of worried about that series because I'm worried what kind of stuff Chibnall might throw in, like the
maybe.
Timeless Child.
Yeah,
And then
it's the Timeless
Russell have to
Child.
fix it.
The Timeless Child is a really interesting one because Russell T Davies has really defended it. Like
But I feel like if he wrote it, I could live with it because it
That's
wouldn't
what I'm about to
feel
say.
like. Because the problem is with the Timeless Child, apart from it being the Timeless Child, is it's very much just kind of like, this is the Timeless Child, believe it. Do you believe it? If you don't, you're wrong. There's no like leeway there at all for if you maybe don't, or there is no. It's not done in a fluid way. It very much feels like the writer's telling me this is a thing, and I'm here thinking, I don't want this, and I don't believe you because there's nothing in this universe that makes me feel like that. The Master lies, and this Master isn't even the same Master that I knew. It's just it didn't feel like it followed any of Capaldi's era. So it's like this.
And I think what's so exciting about that is because even though he has gone on record and defending it, though he has also made comments that criticize it.
Ooh.
So I do think like
Any examples? Or?
Well, they did a rewatch of what was the episode? I think it was a rewatch of the Stolen Earth Journey's End that we'll do next week. When they did over lockdown, they did these big.
I'm smiling. I'm very excited.
Okay, sure. Over lockdown, they did these big rewatches where all the actors and the crew were tweeting along and everything. And it was all this big thing going on. Doctor Who basically really did really well over lockdown over that kind of thing. And they did Stolen Earth Journey's End, I believe it was. And Russell T Davies tweeted, the stakes are kind of taken away when you think 507 other doctors could have shown up to save the day. He tweeted something like that. So that is a bit like,
little dig, kind of like
a dig at the Timeless Child. But anytime anybody's criticised the Timeless Child, he's always defended it.
I feel like that's,
but I do wonder.
Either,
I wonder how much of that is just professionalism.
I was about to say exactly that. Is it him believing that, or is it being like, I've worked with this guy. I can't really let people. Excuse my French. On this so much, but it's kind of like once I've got control, I really don't think he's gonna retcon it. But I do.
I'd like him to.
Oh, I'd love that, but I don't think he will.
Episode 1, the Timeless Child isn't real. Anyway, carry on.
But I do think he'll. Even if he does retcon it, I feel like he'll find a way to make it seem seamless. Like either parallel universe, because they're exploring that quite a bit in Russell T Davies' era with the whole parallel universe thing. But no, my theories on what he'll do with the Timeless Child, I've got loads of them, but I do think he'll find a way to, if not fix it, at least have it so I can either forget about it or live with it.
That's right. I think I do think I don't like it, and I probably will still not like it, even if Russell T Davies still carries it on. I will still not like it.
But it isn't. Yeah,
but he would probably make me find. He'd probably find a way for me to go, all right, I can live with this. And I think what that needs to do, if you're gonna have it, I think, have some ambiguity. The Doctor is the Timeless Child if you want them to be. If you don't, then they're not.
That's what I think we need. And because I think, and I've even spoken to some people that do like the Timeless Child, be it seems to be in the minority, but they do seem to like it. And it does seem to be a lot of classic fans for some reason.
It's nice that somebody's coming back that I trust wholeheartedly.
Yes.
And I can just sit back now and go, in 2 years' time, we're going to get Doctor Who, and it could be the best Doctor Who we've ever had.
It's just like saying, if you, I don't know, really weird analogy, if your car's broken and you need it fixed, do you risk it and go with someone new because the last guy kind of broke it, or do you go back to your first mechanic who built the car and kind of knows how it all works? You know, be a bit more expensive.
Very, very kind of macho analogy that I don't think is quite in place on a sci-fi nerdy podcast, but sure, let's go with it.
I was just thinking fixing
Gonna
stuff.
bring
right.
up football next.
I despise football. I could have said video games, but I mean it's
more on brand though, isn't it?
yeah, but this is more like of a clear cut. This is fixing stuff.
No, fair enough.
I mean, let's
Anyway.
get in the bleeding IT guy to walk in and hit the computer a bit. Let's get the first IT guy instead of the last. Listen. Fixing, fix. There you go.
Fix. I would say that wraps up our little news section.
Yes.
So that was our first ever edition of Who Knows? The real reason we're here this week is to talk about Turn Left.
Yes, we are.
Now, this is my third favourite episode of all time,
Mm.
ever. Love this episode so much. When I first mentioned it to you, you went, Turn Left. I hate that episode.
Yeah.
So I was so excited to do this. And actually, this, in our original schedule for Series 2, this was quite near the end. And I've hurried it to the front because I thought it's a great first episode as we are turning left. But I really want to see if your opinion has changed.
You want to deal with me sooner, basically.
Yes, I don't want to keep putting it off because it's a great episode and any excuse to watch it is a good excuse. So, of course, we tend to do this a lot. I was going, I'm going to start with George, but I am going to start with you because I really want to know if your opinion has changed.
Mm. And the floor is mine. The interesting thing is, whenever I used to think back to Turn Left, as you just mentioned, I'd always think back to it in kind of a bad way. I'd always be like, "I wasn't that great, was it?" Or just kind of bit boring.
Yeah,
Like the Doctor wasn't in it. Like what was the point?
because it
That-
isn't a standard. Here's the monsters. Let's go defeat the monsters.
Yes, it's
We
a
don't-
very different
we don't
episode.
have that
That's
at
what
all.
that's what I'd always initially thought. And I can kind of explain why I thought that in a way.
Go on.
Because first, okay, let's just say now, I watched it yesterday,
Mhm.
and drum roll please, I
Wow.
loved it. I think it was superb. I think it was incredibly heartfelt and emotional and character driven, and it was just damn near incredible and so real as well. For something about sci-fi and kind of the world going to hell in this kind of not futuristic, but in this kind of world where aliens are visiting the planet every so often, it felt real, and it felt like that can happen, and it felt really quite depressing in a lot of places. And
Oh, it is. It's so miserable.
If I cry when watching Doctor Who, it's for one of two reasons. One is I am in awe of what's happening, and I'm just over the moon. with some-
Overwhelmed.
Yes, I'm overwhelmed. Yeah, exactly. Or it's because I'm just incredibly sad because the show's doing something really just
Like
quite,
a regeneration.
quite moving. Yes, or like a companion that you love leaves or something.
Dies.
Yes, I'd prefer when they leave. You don't need to kill them every time. But in this episode, I had
Moffat.
one moment where I cried because I was overjoyed and emotional. But I had about 10, maybe 20, where I'm just crying because this episode is just making me feel so sad.
Yeah.
And that was superb. So that's basically the episode I think is amazing. But the reason I think I never really thought back of it in a good way is because of that. Because it's this heavy episode, because it's dealing with these quite mature topics. When I was younger, when I would have watched this for the first time, most of these probably wouldn't have resonated with me in any way. And if they did, it would have been, I guarantee you, I was sitting there thinking when I was younger, can David come back? Can the Doctor come back? That's all I would have been thinking, because it wouldn't have really had that resonance with me. And I think that's the reason why I never thought back to it in a good way. But it is definitely something that is incredible, but it is very heavy and mature. And I think it is something that I don't think a lot of kids, maybe, even if they do remember it fondly, good for them, but I think a lot of kids maybe wouldn't, even if you do think of it fondly, watch it again and you'll enjoy it a hell of a lot more, because I've done a complete turn left here. I've done a complete kind of 180 here on this episode. I think it's gone from an episode which I've always thought back as,
Bit boring.
I'll
bit
skip
dull.
that. I'll skip that.
Yeah.
Literally, I'll skip it. But now I'm like, I'm going to watch this every time in any run through, because it adds such valuable context for Stolen Earth.
Journey's End.
I was about to say Journey's End, but I was like, is it Journey's End? And Journey's End. And it's brilliant. And the stars going out bit, that's directly in relation to the next two episodes.
And what the series has been building up as well.
It
Because
is-
so many, we obviously see loads of past episodes, but loads of episodes from the series itself as well. Like, I literally watched the Sontaran one only a few weeks ago, just because I felt like it, actually. And then in this one, where you see the Atmos and all the smoke billowing out of the cars, and then you hear that instead of the Doctor on the Sontaran ship, it was the Torchwood team instead, and things like that. It's just, everything's like, if you've watched this series, you go, oh yeah, I remember that from that. There's all these things that brings it all together and just ties it up nicely, and then goes, we're now going to smash it to pieces with the next episode.
God, the
you know what I mean?
goosebumps I got from just in this episode, the amount of times I got goosebumps from them mentioning like the Torchwood team or something like that. Like
Yeah.
when they mentioned, okay, sorry, but this bit in this episode,
I know exactly
this
what you're
bit,
going to say.
I'm actually going to cry. This bit literally broke me to the point where I had to pause for a good few minutes.
To sort yourself out.
Yeah, the moment where Sarah Jane, Elizabeth Sladen, they do kind of a fake kind of death breaking news thing. I was overjoyed to see her. And it was like, oh my god, she's in the episode. But then as soon as it sunk in, like there was like, she's dead. I was like, it broke me because it is so. I can't really describe how sad it makes me feel, because she was such a huge part of my childhood, and I know it is yours as well, like the Sarah Jane Adventures. So kind of having to watch, even it being like a fake news,
Because she was still alive at the time.
exactly,
But
like
we
knowing
know
that her
now
that she's not with us anymore. It's just heartbreaking, and it's not something I think I can watch that one scene again in sound mind
in any hurry, yeah.
because it just reminds me of kind of the fact we did lose her. And when we did lose her, it did break me. But now I'm older, it's because I am somewhat more emotionally mature. It breaks me more, and seeing this fake news thing, yeah, just it's basically that's what it would have been. Give or like changing the name slightly, but it's still, they would have mentioned Sarah Jane during when her death was announced, so that would have been something. It's just making me very sad.
Yes, we'll move on.
Sorry.
But I love that so many of like all the problems that happened. Yes, the universe is dying because it can't cope without the Doctor, but so many of the kind of the Earth things have been solved by former companions. I love that detail. I love that the hospital disappearing to the moon, or Sarah Jane was investigating instead of the Doctor investigating. She was there to do that, and I love that. Like Sarah Jane was, and when they even mention, as well, Luke, Maria, and Clyde, and they mention that, I just got chills from saying that. When they mention that, you think, well, the Doctor's dead, and she still would have seen him at the school. That still would have happened, but she wouldn't have seen him again after that, because then he's dead after that.
And would anyone really know the Doctor's dead apart from Unit and Donna in that moment, and Rose, obviously?
I guess Sarah Jane probably would, because she used to work so closely with Unit.
Maybe, but maybe not even in that.
Probably.
Maybe she never had the time to find out, because
maybe.
time is really weird in Doctor Who. She may never have.
Maybe, who knows? But also, obviously, because then the Doctor meets Martha in that episode, she wasn't a companion technically in this universe, but they still mention Martha Jones was doing something,
and she sacrificed herself, and it
to,
shows that character, and it shows the selflessness. And I really think this episode is a real celebration of. To me, it's a celebration of a couple of things. You got one, it's a celebration of Donna and how important of a companion she is. And we'll delve more into these in a minute. I think it really shows you why Donna deserved to come back, you know?
And I wonder if, we'll come on to this in a moment, I'm just going to inject this here, but I wonder if she would be my favourite companion of all time without this episode.
Interesting.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I get what you mean.
It's such a spotlight.
I don't think she's overtaken anyone, but she's basically just gone like, she's very good, you know? But
anyway, carry on.
So it's obviously for Donna, and I think it's for the wider companions. It shows how they're so important, and kind of not why they deserve to travel with the Doctor, but why they travel with the Doctor. Their character and
traveling with the Doctor has
done to them in a way. Yes, exactly. And I think it was wonderful. And I always love the stories where it's like, in like anything where people have been inspired by a hero,
they went on to do
and they've done something as incredible, or if not more incredible than the original. But also, one thing this episode does to me, and because I've got such a huge soft spot for David Tennant's Doctor, it's my I love him so much. This episode really shows me that basically shows what happens without him and what happens without the Doctor. And it really shows you, because you kind of got some stakes in previous episodes. The Titanic could have hit the building, could have hit Buckingham Palace. Oh no, that's what we knew could have happened. But in this episode, you see what would have happened, and it's not just that; it's the entire city gone. It's that, and then it's the entire country thrown in disarray because of that one thing. It really shows you the stakes and how important the Doctor in any universe is, in any timeline. I mean, like even Capaldi, it shows you that Capaldi could have been in these situations, but it just showed me that there's more to just these he saves the day. There are possibilities. There is the possibility that he doesn't, if this one thing doesn't happen, and it's incredible. And it's basically this kind of thing, like
it's Doctor Who's what if, isn't it?
Yes,
Like it's really like what if Buckingham Palace was hit by the Titanic? Oh yeah, the government are dead. Like it's all these things are just thrown up. What else happens? The Arachnos star.
yeah, which had less of an impact, but it still managed to shoot stuff and destroy things.
It affected the Thames in some way. What else happened? Because he drains the Thames, doesn't he, in that episode?
Yeah.
What else happens? Partners in crime. The adipose.
Oh, the adipose one. That killed a lot of people.
Killed most of America. Didn't it? Atmos, as I mentioned earlier. Are there any other major ones?
So you got the Titanic hitting.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else, but there's probably something else that I'm missing. Because you just generally got things spiraling and getting worse, haven't you? And it does just build up as the episode goes along.
And the Atmos thing is important, but that one's not really doesn't have as huge of an impact. It would, it would have had more of an impact actually if it weren't for the Buckingham Palace explosion, because then they have less petrol, and then it's kind of the whole world is already in such a state at that point.
Yeah, do you know what I really liked about that detail? I thought people always write about Russell T Davies that he's kind of like he predicts the future.
Clairvoyant,
and years and years, so many things happened years and years ago. My God, we're living through that. And I thought when they go, the UK has no petrol. I was like going, damn right it doesn't. Like this is what's happening right now. This isn't just in Doctor Who. This is happening now.
Yeah.
But no, it's really. I was saying about how it spirals, and we can come on to Donna here. What I find. I watch this episode a lot. Like I'll just watch it on its own every now and then because I love Donna so much. I love Catherine Tate.
Why do you do that to yourself?
That's what I'm just thinking. I was about to say, why would I put myself through that? It's because I find it so comfortable. And even though you go, Aidan, you've got a really dark mind, but it's because the episode starts with them just in a market, just having fun. You just got some nice music. They're looking at this, looking at that. It's just like, this is my favorite. This is my favorite TARDIS team, just the Doctor and Donna. I love it so much. I'm just like, I could watch hours of this. I could listen to hours.
It just shows you how important I think one companion is.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be
but especially as an especially strong companion.
Yes.
As well, because it's like, this just has such a big
maybe certain times they're trying to compensate with not having a strong companion by having many strong companions.
Yes.
Many average companions, I'll say.
So it starts off so comfortably. And then Donna, throughout the episode, especially near the start, because obviously it gets so miserable towards the end.
Yeah.
But she's so funny in it. So funny. And because I watch the Catherine Tate show a lot, I find Catherine Tate's probably one of my top 3 comedians ever. And I watch it a lot because I really like the comedy in it. Like the things where it goes, wait, what do you do? Is something I quote alarmingly regularly. And there were other things I wrote down that maybe that whole thing when she's getting fired and she does don't tell me the hospital's come back. Well, isn't that wizard? Like she just isn't fazed. Her whole world, she's like, I've been sacked. I don't care that the hospital's gone missing. I love that about Donna. Other things where, what do you do? And then the bit was just like going, you know that money that went missing? Anne-Marie! And it's all these like really sassy things. So I find it so comfortable because it's like comic relief done right. Like if you want to have a funny moment, you don't put it in the really dark. There are funny bits later on, but they gradually get less and less.
Yeah, as her life becomes much worse, she's less likely to have a little joke, isn't she?
Because even when the refugee crisis begins, and she's going, Leeds? I'm not going to Leeds. And she does that. And then when the woman shouts at her in the street, she goes, Oi, shut up, Vera Duckworth. Oi. And all these kind of things are still being funny. But as things go on, it does get more miserable. I've forgotten what my original point was. But, a comic relief, because you don't put jokes later on there. That's when things go wrong. And if you go, let's put a joke here, it's like, no. So it's so it's Donna. It really will. It's Donna's masterpiece because it shows you every single reason why Donna is so good. Towards the end, she's really strong. She's really independent.
And it's interesting because
And
we're
at the
not
start,
seeing.
she's so funny.
Yeah, we're not seeing a Donna who's been with the Doctor. We're seeing kind of well,
Mm.
we are technically, but we're seeing a Donna that's from a world that never saw the Doctor. But you still see elements of that same Donna, especially later on in the episode when she has that drive, when she's just like, I know what I've got to do. I've got to run 5 miles in like,
Half a mile.
half a mile. I was about to say 5. No, half a mile in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 miles in half a minute.
That would be ridiculous.
But I think this episode is a celebration of her, but I also think it's a huge celebration of Catherine Tate's acting capabilities. Because
Absolutely, yeah.
because there is one moment in this which I think is so incredible and so real, actually. The moment where she first like time travels, and she not first, where she does just time travel to the past and she's on the wrong street. Her reaction, kind of that feeling kind of sick, and I don't know what to do about this situation because I know this is wrong. I can't fix it. It's like I have no control right now. I've had that feeling before, like it's ever you're kind of like, you've got a deadline in like 5 minutes. It's that kind of like physical, you feel like you're gonna be sick.
What do I do? Yeah.
Exactly. The way she portrayed that was unbelievable. Like it's exactly I've done that,
Mm.
and that's just one moment in this entire episode that I think is incredible acting from Catherine Tate.
Because that moment is so easy just to go, oh no, what do I do? But to have the actual way that you do go,
Kinda
what the
despair.
hell do I
Mm.
do? To actually have that is like, it's just, and that is such a good point because it's so easy to look at Catherine Tate. Like I said, she's one of my favorite comedians. It's so easy to go, she's just a comedian. Is Doctor Who just going, let's have somebody popular because she was really popular at the time this was out. But that's not why she's in it. Yes, she's in it because she's really popular. Yes, she's in it because she's really funny.
Mhm.
But she's actually beneath that, she has done Shakespeare for a reason because she's a really good actor. And this is this is just to go, here's your spotlight. Here's to show you that. Because Catherine Tate, yes, Donna is incredible. And it's about showing how Donna can be incredible on her own. But it's also about let's show how incredible Catherine Tate can be on her own.
And in this episode, she's getting to play a Donna, which has many different character moments in a very short space of time. And I think playing a companion on it, or anyone on a TV show like of this long run, like it was how many episodes in a series?
At this time, there was 13.
So 13 episodes. That's quite a bit of time. That's a lot of time. So you don't really. I think she probably she just got to stretch her legs. I think in terms of kind of acting, she got to do some maybe a bit more despair in places, kind of because I think with the Doctor, because I still think one of her best acting moments ever is in It's Either Stolen Earth or Journey's End, where she is just weeping when she's being mind wiped. That bit is
we'll deal with that emotionally
incredibly
next
upsetting.
week.
But it's like I think she got to act kind of do more range in this episode than she did in a lot of the rest of the series.
Mm.
I just think it's such an incredible episode. And it's
Yeah, and while we're on acting as well, we were talking about Donna, but while we're on acting, Bernard Cribbins and is it Jacqueline? What's her name who plays?
I don't know.
But their acting through it as well is so good because they're easy. Obviously, very easy. Bernard Cribbins very easily just go, he's that funny guy who's been entertaining us for decades, and then Jacqueline, it's so easy just to go, she's just a supporting character.
No.
Jacqueline King. I was going to say Jacqueline Pierce. I think that's somebody else. So many of my favorite moments of hers, she wasn't even saying anything. It's just her face.
Mhm.
There are 2 moments where she just looks like, I can't take this anymore.
She's lost every drive.
Like usually there's the bickering and the banter between her and Donna, but even when Donna's like going, I could never get a job and all that kind of thing, even when she kind of just goes, yeah. It's like, I can't even be bothered to banter and bicker anymore. I can't take this anymore.
Mhm.
And that is so powerful. Just for her to say, just for all she's doing in that, essentially, in the script, all that will say is, Sylvia, yeah. That's all it will say.
Because I remember a close-up. I think you're talking like a close-up where Donna is, I think, in the hallway.
In behind
it's
her,
just
yeah.
her face.
It's just her
and
face, and she's just like,
it's despair.
it's just one look, and it's that look is like, I'm getting so much
Mm.
from this one look.
I'm getting kind of sadness, despair, but kind of more than anything, just kind of the sense of defeat.
Mm.
What is there to life anymore?
And
What
then
do I do?
And on the flip side of that, you've then got Wilf, who has that wartime I'm probably going to start getting choked up in a moment, when he has that kind of wartime, real, optimistic spirit, like when they first go into the house. Also, did you know, fun fact, just to lighten the mood slightly, fun fact, the guy who plays the everybody lives here guy, he plays the Pope in Extremis with Peter Capaldi. Fun fact for you.
Oh.
Also, another returning, you probably know this one, but another returning actor in this, you know, the fortune teller is Chantho from the Master episode. You know, that goes, Chan, I can't speak like this, though.
Oh,
She
wow.
plays her as well. So there's 2 returning actors here.
I
Anyway,
recognised them.
just lift the mood slightly before I do start crying. When they first get put into that house, and it's like Sylvia, you could just see, he's like, oh, is it? We live in a kitchen, and he's like, well, we'll make do. Come on, we can do this. And I love that,
That
kind
wartime spirit.
and he goes, he even says, where's the wartime spirit? And I just love that kind of the optimism from Wilf. It's like, oh, come on, it's like that this sense of like, well, we're still alive. Surely that's a blessing. We're here. We've got a roof over our heads. It's not great. We've got a roof over. And then later on, when you see him singing the songs, and he's got, if I hear one more sea chanty, and he's there singing along, and then he will sing Bohemian Rhapsody and all that kind of thing. And even in that moment, Sylvia's sat in the middle of the room, and her face is kind of done, but there's a moment her eyebrows kind of lift, and she starts singing along. You think this is a real sense of hope for her there.
Doesn't last long.
And then but that doesn't really go anywhere for her. But
and then
there was just so many.
What's the one bit with Wilf though that kind of gets to you?
The one
gets
bit
to me as well.
There
now.
is, for Doctor Who, there are moments that make me cry. There are, like David Tennant's regeneration. I think that episode lacks in a few places, as we've discussed on this podcast, but it gets that regeneration scene, and it breaks me every single time. Capaldi's regeneration break. When we bloody watched it together, I was like, oh, don't look at me, because I was there crying. But sometimes those things can come and go. I can be in a mood where I watch regeneration and I'm fine. The one moment that makes me cry every single time, no exaggeration used, I'm fully mean it, is the moment where the family are whisked away onto that van, and Donna's like, oh, where are they going? She doesn't understand what's going on. Where are they going? And it's Wilf's face again. He's not saying a single word here. It's just his face of like, this isn't good. And when he just goes, labor camps. That's what they said last time.
Yep.
And then it's when he goes, it's happening again. It's just those words. And he isn't saying what's happening again, but we know full well what he's talking about.
It is.
And it's that moment there for acting reasons, probably for personal reasons as well, with my own family history. I hear that and I'm just like, that breaks me every single time. And I'm just like, this is so sad. And it's such a dark place for Doctor Who to go. It's just such a powerful
it's just incredibly
such a powerful scene, and there are so many powerful.
It's a powerful episode.
Scene in an episode full of powerful scenes.
It's a powerful episode. It's incredibly moving, and I think it's Russell T Davies just kind of showing how well he kind of writes and kind of showing the real world, and it is incredibly sad. And I know this is quite a more morbid topic for the episode, but I do think it's incredible writing because of how both obviously depressing but real that those situations are.
It's one of these things where it's like, it's not going, well, if this goes wrong, we could end up in a crisis like this. There's an episode where it goes, you're in that crisis, and you're going to see that crisis, and you're going to see exactly why we need to avoid that crisis, which is, it's such a brave and dark place to go to.
Especially in Doctor Who, which is arguably a kids' show.
Especially in this era as well, that was very much a family show. Like, if they did this in the Moffat era, it would still be dark, but I'd be like, I can understand this a bit more because Moffat went much darker. But in this era in the era where Doctor Who was on Froobs, do you remember that?
Yeah.
They did this episode.
Yeah, be
And
quiet.
people
Quiet
carried on.
juxtaposition. Get your Froobs, turn left.
Like, just everybody's there eating a Froob. Do you eat a Froob or drink a Froob?
I didn't really like them because they were weird kind of... Why were they... I don't like weird, slimy, yogurty things, especially when it's just being...
You could never open them. You could never open them.
And you open them too
as soon
quickly.
As you opened it, and you just
you open it. No, you got to kind of open it in your mouth, and then but you can't even fight. You don't have any kind of moment. It's like you open it, and it's like
one squeeze as well, and
I've swallowed that whole.
Did you go,
I couldn't even taste it.
What flavour is that? Strawberry? I don't know.
I might have the banana one.
But in the era where Doctor Who was on Froobs, that's how we lighten the topic of Froobs. In the era when we had Doctor Who on Froobs, we had this episode, and that shows you how popular and powerful Doctor Who was at this time.
Because I had kind of so many reservations about this episode,
Yeah.
I can't. There's like nothing negative for me here because everything was, oh, this is actually really good.
It's kind of new for you in a way. Then.
Basically, yeah.
It's
I'm
kinda like
seeing
watching
this.
a new episode.
It felt
really.
like that actually. It
Yeah.
felt like I was seeing it kind of through a new lens, through a completely different perspective, and it had an impact.
Did you?
on
How
me.
much of it did you actually remember in that?
The
sense?
start and the end, and
Yeah.
the not the end actually, the start. Not even the start. Just I remember the bug because
Yeah.
I hate kind of those kind of things. Parasites.
I mean,
Alien.
I have 3 negative points about this episode.
Not very scary though, was it?
One of my negative points was Time Beetle looks naff
Time Beetle.
because it is, it is just something that's very clearly just on her back, and there's a vague remote control that makes the pincers things. That
Especially when it's on its back at the end,
go,
and it's just kind of going.
And I do look at that and I go, look, I don't believe that's a real creature. Would it have been better in CGI? Probably not.
I think they could have just gone something more kind of alien, as in Ridley Scott's, H.R. Geiger's designs. Something a bit more disgusting.
Maybe,
But
yeah.
even then, do we want to go that disgusting?
Yeah, I don't know why they thought Beetle. To be honest, I think it's a very odd choice.
What would you have gone with then? I would have thought more of kind of.
I think to be honest, I think the Beetle could have worked. I think I would have shrunk it slightly, and then made it move more.
Yes.
And I think just shrinking it slightly makes it not look like a backpack. And like I think if you just kind of
probably was a
backpack.
backpack. That's how it was attached.
That's what I imagine. Just straps that went under a thing. That's what I imagine. But,
Like if I could change the design entirely, like if I had full free reign, I'd probably go with something like the symbiote from kind of Marvel, that kind of thing. Kind
Yeah.
of more like something that kind of shifts.
Or-
And that's expensive to do, but kind of something more unknown, more freaky.
Yeah, to be honest, I might have even gone with the, in like kind of like Listen when they have the whole thing, don't turn around, don't look at it. I might not have even shown it.
God, I just got goosebumps because that scene in Listen with the balloon, with kind of what's underneath the cloth.
Yeah.
That is probably one of the scariest
Well,
moments. in all
hold
of
that.
Doctor Who.
We'll talk that in a few weeks.
Are we talking Listen?
Yeah,
That's incredible.
of course we are.
Yeah.
What I mean, Halloween. It's October.
Oh.
Our Halloween episode is going to be Blink. But what the hell do you think we're going to do the week before?
I won't be sleeping. That's what's happening basically. I remember when I first watched that. Sorry, just a quick tangent. I watched that at night for the first time. Don't do that.
What,
Don't do that.
Listen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember you sent me a lot of videos.
I turned all my lights
You
out.
sent me a lot of videos going, this episode is so good. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, I think I wouldn't have shown it. When you see those vague shots where you do see something slight move, I think that's all I'd have kept it as. There's something on your back, but we don't know what it is. I think, to be honest, because I think when you do show it's Beetle, I go, what?
It's because it's
just-
something we know.
Yeah,
to be
I
honest.
think
It's a
it
design of something
makes
in
it
real
look
life.
naff. I do love that it's connected to the Trickster from Sarah Jane. I love that.
Oh yeah.
When she says it's one of the Trickster's brigade, I love that detail. But as it being a Beetle, I'm kind of like, yeah.
All in all, Beetle.
My real negative point. My other two are probably quite predictable because you know I do love Rose. I do love Rose,
You
but
look like a mess.
I do have criticisms of
Uh-huh.
Rose. So one of them, that I don't like the Dr. Rose romance. So one of my criticisms is the bit where Donna and Rose are in the dead TARDIS, which is extremely depressing.
Oh God, that's that moment is just it's.
It's the line where Donna goes, "Were you and him?" And Rose kind of goes, I'm like, "Oh, shut
what was
up."
that? What was that we met him in?
That's basically what she does. She kind of goes, and I kind of think, "Oh, shut up." We don't need that stupid romance in this episode. But I don't like that.
It's not
bit.
like it's an important part of kind of the relationship between Rose and the Doctor.
No, but it's
it'd be like if I had a wife and then suddenly you were asking me about them.
Yeah, but
it'd be
it's-
quite
it's-
difficult for me to separate
But
that.
it's Donna's moment to shine, isn't it? It's when we're like going, do you remember when they had that whole blah blah blah? I'm like, oh, shut up! I don't want reminding of that. But so I don't like that.
Okay.
We're now 2 out of 3 of my negative points. My other negative point is I love Rose in this episode. I do. I think the way Rose went from, well, I'm gonna say, and this is quite a controversial word to use, but I'm gonna use it because it was how she was used how she was described
Okay.
when she was brought in. She's introduced as a 19-year-old chav. I know we're not supposed to say chav because it's classist, but that's what Russell T Davies has described her as. That's how she was that was how she was envisioned.
You're really throwing Russell T Davies under the bus there.
Yeah,
You're
it's
not
his-
supposed to
it's
say
his-
chav,
it's
but
his
he
fault.
said chav.
Yeah. That's how she was envisioned.
Mhm.
So to go from that to this woman who's now like kitted out in leather and she's saving the world and she's hopping between
I like how the
parallel
leather was the first thing we
parallel
thought of.
universe. Because she was just in like hoodies and things
Yeah,
before.
yeah, I
But
know.
leather,
I know.
a leather jacket always signifies
Yeah,
you're a badass, doesn't it? So when she's now,
unless you're me and it never kind of fits and it always looks a bit.
yeah, I do love all of that. The bit where I think it, we've said before about Clara. I don't like Clara at all. But we've always said that she was always kind of like she became too close to the Doctor. Now, I like that Rose is fulfilling some doctory roles in this episode, in that she's explaining things, and she's kind of going, we need to get this going. The bit I think it goes slightly too far is there's a very quick cut bit when she's saying, you need to go back, you need to do this, you need to go around the corner, I need to do all this. For me, in that moment, that's a bit too doctory.
Mm.
And it's gone
I
from...
remember that shot where it's like,
that's
who
what I do.
does a left like that?
Because it really puts an emphasis
Yeah.
on it. So you have to go around the corner. I think I actually wrote it. Rose fulfilling techno babble roll around the corner. Yeah, I did. I wrote it. But
I do love the way she does it. It's not even like you go left. It's like you go round. It's a
But,
proper.
but
And the camera does like a close up, and it's
that's what
all.
it's that really quick cut face, arm, different angle of face. That kind of is very David Tennant explaining things really quickly. You know, you can imagine him putting his glasses on, taking his glasses off, doing this kind of thing. I can
Hits
really.
you a bit.
It's like they've. It's I don't actually know who directed. I don't know who directed this episode. I'll Google that while I'm talking. But it's like they were just directing a Doctor's explanation
Yes.
for Rose, and I think you're Rose, and you've taken on doctory qualities as you've become stronger.
I think they.
But I think you've gone that's a bit
too far.
Bit too far.
I think a lot of this episode is kind of just saying how Rose has become quite independent, and a lot
but
of
she's
stuff.
not become like
Yes.
the Doctor.
Yeah, this is what. Yeah, I was about.
Yeah.
I was saying. Yeah, she's become quite independent, and she's very much not the 19-year-old, just kind of girl who goes with the Doctor anymore. She's her own person, and it's kind of she can handle herself to the point where she's basically wandered into unit without telling them her name and been like,
Trust
I'm
me.
the boss now, which
Yeah.
I think is very cool, and I think is something which I think is more her. And she didn't walk in and say I'm the Doctor. She's just like, I'm not going to tell you my name, because if I do, that's gonna send more ripples through time.
Yeah.
It's less of an ego thing and more of a I shouldn't even be here thing, you
Yeah.
know. And but no, I do kind of agree with you with that kind of that bit. I think that's kind of maybe a bit to do with the writing, but I also think that's because of how the shots and the camera work seems to put a heavy emphasis on that
Yes,
moment
I think
for some
it's
reason.
the whole that whole. 'Cause if you actually took her explaining it out, all she's saying is you need to go back, you need to go around the corner. It's fine. It's the way she does it in a doctory way,
Technobabble, as you said,
and
yeah.
it's shot in a way that
This is really dramatic.
It's very David Tennant's
If the Doctor were there, it would be exactly the same. It's just kind of it did feel
Yes,
like that.
that's. I mean,
That's
guy-
probably how the director kind of does those kind of scenes with
technobabble scenes, yeah.
with the Doctor,
Yeah.
and just assumed as when they were in the script.
Let's do the same
Just
thing. So that
translates, but it doesn't, unfortunately.
I don't like that. But it's a blip really, because the director is Graham Harper, who I think is the best. Well, maybe Rachel Talalay is the best. No, I'd say Graham Harper is the best Doctor Who director, because he did a fair bit of classic Who, and then I shall read to you the episodes of New Who that he directed, and you'll go, yes, I can see why those
okay.
episodes I
Shoot.
love. So right, he did Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel, Army of Ghosts, Doomsday, 42, Utopia, Last of the Time Lords, Time Crash, Partners in Crime, Planet of the Ood, Unicorn and the Wasp, Turn Left, Stolen Earth, Journey's End, The Waters of Mars, and from the Sarah Jane Adventures, Whatever Happened to Sarah Jane, The Temptation of Sarah Jane, Enemy of the Bane. So he's done a lot.
I mean, if the dude did Waters of Mars, he's immediately my favourite.
Exactly. So all those strong performances and things that we get. Thank you, Graham Harper.
Yes.
So yeah, I do think that is probably the one bad thing he did in his Doctor Who career. Just the that's the,
I love
but
that.
the fact that
It's like it's a big truck.
well, the fact that they are, to be honest, they're minor, very minor faults, aren't they? I don't like the design of the time beetle. I don't like
Time beater.
how the time beater. I don't like the design of the time beetle. I don't like how this 10-second scene was directed, and I don't like a mention of just a plot that I don't generally like anyway. They're so minor, aren't they? Because this episode is faultless, and like I say, I revisit it so often, and they're two Rose related things, but generally I think Rose Rose is a character who people always say, bring Rose back. And I go, no, stop it. She came back too many times. She came back here. She came back in the Day of the Doctor. Stop bringing Rose back. I think her time is dead and done. But this, bringing her back here is so worthy and so well written that when she does come back, I'm like, yes, Rose is here. Whereas if they brought her back now, I'd be going, get rid of her.
I'm of two minds of if she were to come back now.
Yeah.
Of purely nostalgia mind, hey, it's Rose again. But from an actual filmmaking perspective, it's a bit dumb because she's had a moment, you know? And it's like, I could have maybe, I think the way it was done in Day of the Doctor was perfect. Not Rose, but is Rose.
Yeah.
You know? Bad Wolf and all that kind of thing. It's just, I think that's the best way to do it. Because that is, it's in the Doctor's past. And I'm always one for kind of bringing stuff back. But if something is so, like if you do something with a full arc, like if there's just one film that I think is an incredibly well done film, like Joker, for example, I think it's incredible. And it's kind of like, does it need a sequel? Do you need to bring this kind of thing back when it's done to its fullest here? It's that kind of thing. But no, Rose in this episode, I agree with you. Amazing, brilliant. And is there anyone else in kind of the Doctor's roster of companions who I think could fulfill that role? I think, obviously you've got Martha, who's quite, you got that strong, and you got, like, they're all quite strong in their own way, but I think in terms of having a bit of mystery and having that kind of going outside of the box, I think it's either Sarah Jane or Rose for me, because I think Martha's now obviously quite not militarized, but you know what I mean.
I think it's because it is written specifically for Rose.
Yes, but I'm just saying,
it can't be anybody else because it has to be somebody from another universe. It has to be somebody with those past experiences, and Rose is that one.
Yes.
So it's one of those. It's like going, if it was actually if it was a character, you go, well, this could have been this person. This could have been this person. That's when you go, why did it have to be Rose? The fact it had to be Rose shows, okay, this is a real necessary character to bring back, rather than just going, you know, like say Revolution of the Daleks when they brought Captain Jack back for no apparent reason. He didn't need to be there, whereas here
it's gracing the character again.
Yeah, but it's like, but you don't actually.
You're the only good bit in the episode.
You don't actually need to be here, and you always talk about, oh, I'm immortal, but we never actually see him die.
And you only ever seem to talk about David for some reason.
Yeah, and so yes, the fact it has to be Rose shows that this is actually a genuine, necessary character return. But it's such. I mean, it's such a simple concept, really. This episode.
I think nowadays it is more than anything.
When you,
I think it's more simple now.
Yeah, but I mean, it's such a simple villain concept to just go, well, if the Doctor had never met this person, everything would be different. It's so simple, but to get a whole 45-minute drama out of that and for it to be so effective, and then for the villains in the end to be like, we didn't expect that to happen. And when she's cowering on the floor, and I love when the fortune teller says, "What will you be?" to Donna, because that's foreshadowing the Doctor Donna. I love that moment.
Well, does anyone ever actually say that to anyone? I know she is a fortune teller, but it's like,
what will you be?
Yeah, the classic is, what are you? Not what are you going to be tomorrow morning?
I think it makes sense for a fortune teller to say that, though, doesn't it? Even that she's like, I can't predict.
Yes,
what your future's gonna be.
It's although it seems out of place in terms of kind of the cliches we're used to, it's not out of place, and the fact it does seem out of place is, I feel, deliberate.
Yeah,
because you pick up on it, because it is an important character point for the next two episodes.
Yeah, and that ending as well, it's got to be one of the best, hasn't it?
Oh, gee, right, okay. So I said the moments that made me cry were in the main episode. The moment that made me cry with joy was the moment when kind of seeing the Doctor again, where he's just like, hello, and it's like, oh my god,
because it's such a relief, isn't it?
Yes,
you feel like you can go, oh my god, I've been through so much, and you see the Doctor and he just goes, everything okay, or whatever the line is, and you just go, oh, thank God you're here. And that's how it feels. Like you go, oh, I think everything's all right.
Like I've said this before, whenever the Doctor's in the room, you feel safe.
Yeah.
And in this whole episode, you're not safe.
No.
At any point. And at the end, it's like a sudden thank God
for that.
Just stay, please. That's basically what it is. But the moment is when they have the little conversation and the bug's just doing its thing and the Doctor's just poking it. Because it's like, the director was like, just poke it. Okay. But, no, that moment where they're kind of talking at the end and going through it, and then Donna says, there was this girl, and the Doctor says, what does she look like?
Because when she's first in saying there was a girl, he's like, yeah, but she doesn't. But it's when you see him twig that.
That
Hold on, I know who you're talking about, but I just need you to confirm
yes.
that.
And then Donna says she was blonde.
And he goes,
And then-
that's when
No,
the penny drops.
that's when he goes, what was her name? And then she goes like, and she's like, what was her name, Donna? Like proper kind of
Yeah.
like, and then doesn't say the name, but she says Bad Wolf, and the music that swells in
I
that
just got
moment. Same.
goosebumps.
I mean, I don't know if you can do that from here, but
The hairs on the back of my neck just went.
the music that swells, and it's not just the penny dropping at that moment. It's a realization that
Oh no.
this is Rose, but this is Bad Wolf. So it's like a mix of emotions for the Doctor in that moment. Oh my God, it's Rose, but oh my God, it's Bad Wolf. That's a big problem.
Yeah.
And the running out and the music and the really, honestly, some of the, I wouldn't say good camera work where it's like zoom, 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 but it's like it all fits in the moment of Bad Wolf and everything says Bad Wolf. The TARDIS says Bad Wolf. It is such an incredible moment that I think is so Doctor Who. where
Because it's like it's
ah!
that because Bad Wolf had been built up since series
Yes.
1. Since series 1, we knew what Bad Wolf was, but we didn't quite know what. We thought Bad Wolf was the Doctor, was Rose saving the Doctor, and then even Bad Wolf was kind of even more paid off in Day of the Doctor. And they went, oh, here's also what the Bad Wolf is. It's like it's this thing that really has kind of been developed. and
Bad
it's had-
Wolf is more of a
lot-
bad omen than
yeah,
kind of
and
anything.
it's had a lot
really.
of it's had a lot of these different interpretations. But here it was like going, Bad Wolf means the end of the universe, and it's when he just steps in the TARDIS. Well, what does that mean? And it's just when he just says it's the end of the universe, and the TARDIS is red, and we're getting the cloister bell and everything. You just go, oh my God, what just happened? And then obviously that's followed up by the great Next Time trailer, probably the best Next Time trailer ever for Doctor Who. But yeah, and like the music in this episode, it's something we touch on every now and then, but because obviously there's only so many. What's there to say about Murray Gold that hasn't been said before? But there's so many strong bits of music in this episode, so many, and just the way that music goes from the kind of and it very gradually begins to fade out, and it's replaced with the action theme that kind of became the Doctor's theme at this time. When it's replaced, it's so well done.
And just when it hits it, it's just like and
Yeah,
stuff.
and when you
oh.
just hear, and when you hear that coming in, and you're like going, oh wait, what are we building to? What are we building to?
Because
And then,
that
bam!
music, because you know what it means. You know it's going to build up to the big crescendo, but it does it, and
You're
it's like
waiting for
you,
it.
you're just waiting for the moment. I think it's called a sync point. Actually, I'm learning about it in film. Literally
Oh.
yesterday, it's called a sync point, where basically the music and a moment in the TV show or film matches up to create an emotional response. Doctor Who, can you please stop doing that? Because you do it like every time. I love it so much. Like it
gets you.
I finally know the name of what you've been doing to me all these
Yes.
years.
And it's a clip I watch because I watch the episode so often, but I probably watch that clip of the ending even more often. 'Cause I'm just going, let me feel that adrenaline again.
And it never gets old.
No,
I
it
watched it
doesn't.
twice. I watched it once through because I sent you a clip,
Yeah,
and then I was like,
I'm gonna watch that
yeah,
again.
because I was like, I enjoyed that because I watched it one time, then
And
the
then
clip,
the clip,
then again.
Yeah, because it's just it's just perfect.
I love this episode so much.
Yeah. So that brings us on to, as we had in series 1, we had a section. We went, what will we do to fix this? We can't really do that here. So what we are going to do instead is we're going to have another new section called Trial of a Time Lord.
Okay.
So what this section is to do is for us to give our verdict on what we think of this episode. Is there something that needs to be improved? Is it as good as its reputation? What do we think? Because this has a very strong reputation. I did the poll on the Instagram story the other day. Do you like this episode? One person said no. About another 25 said yes, I do.
Can you see who says no and yes?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You didn't. You replied.
I know.
just went, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I was actually going to put no initially, but I was like, I don't. So I just texted you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But what-
I really don't.
So it has such a strong reputation, but does it deserve that reputation? Yes, it does.
Yeah. Fucking hell, like, Jesus. I mean, if it can, if there's anything you're going to take away from this episode, people listening, it's the fact it changed my mind on it. And
Yeah.
because it's an incredible episode. And I think Doctor Who, and we say this so many times, at least I do, character pieces. Doctor Who is a character piece. It's about character. It's about story. It's about the world, as in the universe.
It's what sets it apart from so many other sci-fis, because so many other sci-fis will why my voice broke there. It's probably
Yeah, I do also quite like sci-fi.
my voice broke 3 times there.
I know.
What was that all about?
Sci-fi is just a word you can't say.
Well, Doctor Who is sci-fi. So it's because there's so many sci-fis where you go concept. Here's your team, and they'll be giving you that concept. This instead goes team. Let's go find a concept.
Yep.
And that's what makes Doctor Who so special.
And this isn't. This is less of the concept, and this episode is purely, I think, character, real world drama. Like, yes, it's about sci-fi, but everything that is a result of these sci-fi elements is a very real thing.
And it's like
that
you said,
has happened.
like you
and
said,
that-
some of the shots look like Coronation Street. That whole sequence when they're on the street. I mean, a big portion of that could be Coronation Street. Do you know what I mean? And it's but it's still gripping, and it's still terrifying, and it's still apocalyptic, and it's still sci-fi.
Yep. It's wonderful, and I'm expecting more of this kind of thing, honestly.
This is what I want the new era to look like. Not as depressing as this.
No,
I want hope
but I'm
and
expecting
I want comedy.
like
But this kind of tone, this dark tone, is
this
what
writing.
I
I
want.
think is kind
Yeah.
of where we're going.
And the quality of writing.
That's what
yes.
I think it is.
And
The quality of writing and
character first, concept
and
second.
the I don't want to say political aspect, but the kind of the real world where we actually live aspect influencing it. I think we're going to get quite a lot of that. I just can't wait to see where it goes. And I think this was a hell of an episode to kind of not just get me back into kind of not to
Well,
just
it's because you've rediscovered it.
yeah, not to
or
just
discovered
not to
it.
just show me that the episode is incredible, but also to show me kind of even an episode that I thought wasn't great was great, and it was written by Russell T Davies. So what am I going to think of the new series? I
Yeah.
can't wait.
Yeah. I like I said, this is my 3rd favorite episode of all time. I appear to be losing my voice, so I will be wrapping this up. This is my 3rd favorite episode of all time. I love it. It is a solid 10 out of 10 for me. I have 3 faults. And they're minor.
Insignificant,
They're a
really.
production thing. They're a plot thing that actually isn't really anything to do with this episode. I really don't know what's happening.
That's
to my
just-
voice. I really don't know what's happening to my voice. It's so strong. I adore it. My final verdict: does it deserve its reputation? Yes, it does. It even needs an even stronger reputation
Yes,
than it's
I agree.
already got.
I think in today's day, I think now it deserves an even stronger reputation because I think a lot of people who would have grew up with it with me, as I said, even if you liked it, watch it again now. You will have such a
Especially
greater
because Russell's
appreciation.
coming back.
Yes, go watch this. Go watch this episode right now if you're listening to this,
Yes.
or don't.
Wait,
because
no, get to the end and then go watch it.
Well, yeah, obviously, and like and subscribe and go follow us on Instagram at EDW Podcast.
Underscore podcast.
At,
EDW _podcast. And
That.
then on Twitter, Ellis Gula Media.
Yes, go
You should
find
go,
us.
what
there.
does that got to do with EDW? Long story.
Yes,
But
yes. We do many things podcast wise, and no one wanted the Batman one. That's what we.
We did a Batman one. You can watch it
Yeah.
if you want.
It was more for my sanity.
yes.
Yes.
But I think, yes. What do you rate it out of 10?
Oh, I struggle to give things 10s. I won't give this a 10.
You
I'll give
gave
it-
Midnight a 10.
I know, but
so
I
it's
love Midnight so
interesting.
goddamn much. I'd say an 8. I think
Why not a 9?
because it makes me feel so sad.
Okay.
And I don't know if I can just go
Do you
rewatch it.
think it will go up to a 9 after a few watches?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll go 8 pending 9.
Yeah.
Definitely not pressured on me by me there.
Mhm.
But no. That I think brings us to the end of Turn Left. We can now turn right and do something else.
Hey.
Next week will be The Stolen Earth Journey's End. Really kicking off series 2
Oh, yes.
with my number 1 favourite episode of all
Well, they're
time.
amazing. Those two.
But
No,
no, that's that. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for listening, everyone.
Join us next week. Goodbye.
Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye bye.